After recently beating God of War and reflecting on the game, it's easily a masterpiece. One of the best games this generation, one of the best games of all time. And what surprised me the most about the game was the gameplay, the combat. I don't want it to be a controversial statement. It's just my opinion, but I feel like this gameplay, the combat, is better than any other game in the series, and that was a super surprise to me. Now let me first explain that statement, why it was such a surprise to me. When you look throughout gaming and the different genres, I think a couple genres have the gameplay down. I feel like racing games do. I'm not a big racing game player, but I feel like racing sims have the gameplay to a 10 out of 10 almost. I feel fighting games do that because you don't focus a lot on narrative and other aspects of game and narrative. You focus on the gameplay. So I think fighting games get that down. I think some of the hack and slash games that were inspired by fighting games get it down very well. But when you look at third-person narrative-driven games, which are some of my favorite games, or RPGs, their gameplay is hardly ever perfected, or I say a 10 out of 10. There's a couple examples, in my opinion, that games that do that. I think Metal Gear Solid 5, where it lacks in storytelling, like unlike the other games in the series, I feel like it's the paragon of the third-person action stealth genre. The same way that Bloodborne and Dark Souls have perfected that particular genre in third-person action. But I think for the most part, third-person narrative linear games have yet to perfect their gameplay, or it rarely happens. And of course, no game's perfect, no gameplay's perfect. But for this being Cinematic Studios' first crack at gameplay in this kind of genre, it's really remarkable. But that's not to say that I didn't enjoy the other facets of the game. Like, I thought the story was incredible, the lore building, the world building, the different mechanics. I think the game, like I said at the beginning, is a masterpiece. But going in, I expected that this game learned a lot from The Last of Us or Uncharted, that it learned how to do a narrative story. So I expected the story to be good, and I expected the combat to be competent and have epic moments. But I didn't expect the combat to be near perfection, nearly flawless, and to feel so good. And speaking on other Sony studios, Naughty Dog is probably at the top of the helm in terms of Sony platforms are just making exclusive games, period. But I always feel the knock on them was the gameplay wasn't perfect or wasn't truly outstanding in the Uncharted series or The Last of Us, even though I think The Last of Us is highly underrated, especially that multiplayer. Now, looking back at some of the first gameplay that I saw of the game, I was impressed, but I wasn't blown away. It didn't look like it would feel as good as the old games would. It didn't look as good to me. And once you get your hands on that controller, and you get more mechanics and more stuff get revealed over time, and more systems happen, and you're using your son as it feels like almost like a Dragon Ball Fighter assist, and you're using your heavy runic attack, and you're using your Spartan Rage. It really all melds together, and now some enemies are weak to a certain weapon type, some are weak to a different weapon type. It just reveals more and more layers, more and more depth, and requires more and more skill at the higher difficulties. I remember looking at the leaked gameplay about, I think, a month before the game came out, and I thought it looked pretty good, but I was scrolling through the comments, and so many people were displeased with how the combat looked. They think it looked rudimentary. They compared it to Rise, Son of Rome. They thought it was simplistic. They thought God of War has lost its touch. And personally, I thought it looked fine, but I didn't think it looked as good as it turned out to feel, and as good as it turned out to actually be. But I myself was guilty for just taking it at face value, not realizing that the game had so much more to unwrap, so much more to give to you, and so much more for you to feel. Now let me speak on another topic about the gameplay and the combat. Yo, I don't know the name, the executions, I want to call them glory kills like off of Doom. Those are so awesome to earn when you use the stun meter. And I found myself putting myself in harm's way too many times just to get that set of fighting. Here's a couple of them right here. There's just a couple words to describe about those: visceral, savage, satisfying. All right, and spoiler alert: if you haven't played this game or I got far enough in it, when you finally get the Blades of Chaos, it's totally epic. And the funny thing is, when I first played with the Blades of Chaos, I was convinced how good it, how I was convinced that I would not use the axe anymore. But they're both feel so good. They're both equally adequate, equally fun, equally nuanced. I just love the way both of them balance, and why a different enemy type will use a different attack, and how you can switch back and forth. It really blew my mind. And another thing I appreciate is how the game forces you to get better, to learn the systems more, especially on the higher difficulties. I remember going against the Valkyrie and Helheim for the first time and realizing I wasn't as good as I thought I was. She literally wiped me off the floor. But it's forced me, similar to a Dark Souls game, is to learn her systems, learn the way she attacks, her patterns, and learn the way my attacks and systems really work. And it really brought to light how great the combat system was, especially considering all the Valkyrie battles, which I think are some of the best, if not the best battles in the game, they're all optional. So some of the best boss fights, half of them are optional. And that's just, you get so much value for that. And I'd almost feel wrong for not giving a shout out to one of the best companion characters I've had in the game. I loved Atreus so much. Thank you guys so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed the video. Let me know how you feel down below. Do you think the combat's not as good as I say it is? Do you think I'm crazy? What's your favorite part of the game? Let me know down below. And if you enjoyed the video, please drop a like. I'm always releasing more content, so don't be afraid to join the nation and subscribe. And check you on the next one. Peace.